I recently participated in the ESL Masters Spring, which took place in Dallas. And everyone, they watched their Maru games, they watched their Cero games, Hero, Oliveira, Reiner, all these high-level players. But what they don't know is that on the first day, there also was something called an open bracket, where players that perhaps aren't the top 3 in the world fight against each other. Well, actually, one of these 2 players was Su, a top 8 GSL player, currently still in Group A, waiting to play. Managed to escape out of a group in the round of 16 with Gumiho, Reiner, and one more dude who I can't remember right now. And his opponent was Harstem, who is known to have the 4th best Dutch YouTube channel focusing exclusively on StarCraft 2 channel. So 2 serious competitors that played each other fairly late in the days. For the people that don't know, during these tournaments, you show up in the morning at maybe 10 a.m. Then you realize your group only starts at 3 p.m. But it gets delayed because there's a Darren camping on 5 bases for 50 minutes in a row in a best of 3. And as a result, your group starts 2 hours late. Then afterwards, people start their own matches too late. You camp a little bit against the Zerg player, and all of a sudden it's freaking 10 p.m. When the group should have already been done, and here you are playing against Su. The score currently in this best of 3 was 1-1 after 2 29-minute games, and then Su and I decided to play this banger of a game. I really can't describe it in any other way. This game was, in my mind, truly special. It's one of the funniest games I've played in my entire life. I'm not sure if Su would necessarily agree with me, but I had a good time, and I figured, I'll let you all in on this little secret that I think was broadcast on I'm not even sure if it was on an official stream or on one of the community streams late at night when everyone else was asleep. So yeah, let's get into it. Alcyone was the map. Protoss versus Zerg. Started off fairly standard. I went for a triple adept, double gate, Oracle, fast third nexus type of setup. Didn't manage to kill a whole lot. Did manage to lose 2 workers to a 2-ling run by. So a brilliant start already from our YouTuber. Meanwhile, Su, 2 queens in the main base, ready to defend. Ends up losing a single drone and dealing quite a bit of hull damage on this Oracle. Only 25 HP left remaining. A couple of links running around as well. The second Oracle gets sent across the map. You have a Spore in the main base. No Spore on the natural as there's 3 queens out. No new queens quite in production yet on these bases. So that tries to attack this bad boy. Not quite working out. Very standard opener into a Twilight Council. Usually with this type of opener as the Protoss player, you want to deal some damage with your Oracles. But so far Harstem not really managing to do a whole lot of that. Only getting 2 worker kills in total after 4 minutes and 30 seconds. As a reference point, usually at this point, Hero has killed about 15 workers already. Also probably has lost an Oracle and 2 adepts. But yeah, a lot of the top Protoss players are quite good with this type of Oracle harass. We saw Charge start, and then instead it was going to be Blink. So a little bit of a Blink Stalker opener here. Adept gets taken out. So we see a couple of links falling. I'm not actually sure if these trades are really worth it for the Zerg player, losing links to kill a single adept. I feel like adepts have way less value later on in the game than links do. So whenever people trade links against adepts, and especially if the trade isn't even really cost efficient, I'm always kind of happy with it. So, well, that's really how you want to trade this out, then I'm fine with it. We have the melee upgrade coming in for Su as well. For people who are not too familiar with PvZ, in this matchup, if you're playing Blink and your opponent goes for a melee opener, that is the best case scenario for the Zerg. So ideally you want to be playing against a lot of roaches. Stalkers are very good against roaches. And you don't want to be playing against links. So managed to lose an Oracle here as well. Fantastic start so far. I'm definitely playing some of my greatest StarCraft that I had in a while in this particular game. Activate my my Pulsar Beam as well. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe I cleared a creep tumor. Maybe I didn't and just wasted 30 energy for no reason. Both are viable options, really. Start moving across the map. Worker count fairly close as Su sees 10 Stalkers and decides that a reasonable response is to build 30 links. On top of the already 25 that he had. Like, you know what? Drones are for idiots. Let me see if I can win this game being down 8 workers at 6 minutes for no real reason. And I'm just deciding to clear a little bit of creep. I only have a single Oracle, which makes it difficult for me to be out on the map. Actually, add in some roaches as well. I decide, you know what? Perhaps time for me to just recall back home and, you know, get a setup defensively. I have some gases going down. I have a Templar Archives coming in on the way. Su pretty much shooting himself in the foot once and then shooting himself in the foot another time by building way too many units. And thus being down in workers, despite pretty much having a perfect early game in which he killed about as many workers as I did, but I also lost an Oracle, and tosses the race that is supposed to deal damage. So, yeah, not a great start for me, but also not the end of the world due to, you know, Su's ability to build a lot of links very quickly. +2 melee starts at this point as well. I get my Storm upgrade. 5 gases for Su. I'm not sure if I've seen that. I believe I get a scout at it at some point, otherwise I'd be pooping my pants in case Mutalisks pop out. Mutas are this one unit that is just extremely scary if you're a Protoss player. Also, actually, if you're a Terran player. And also in ZVZ, Mutas are very good. So, I also feel like Muta is one of those units where we don't see it that often, and when we see it, it often just works. I'm not sure if it works because Zergs only play it when it's really good, or if it's just really good and Zergs don't play it quite enough. It's sometimes hard to figure out what the correct answer is there. So Su tries to go for a little bit of a run by, builds another 10 roaches. Probably realizes he's in a pretty decent position at this point, as I'm trying to snipe as many links as I can here with my Stalker army being out on the map. Oracle gets the scout, sees the lack of a gas over here, and now I realize most likely it's not going to be Mutas. Figured out that it's most likely just going to be Ravager Lingbane. And I'm very happy in that case with my Storm, with my Immortal production. These are things that are very powerful against Ravager Lingbane. I'm even adding in some cannons. Another thing I wouldn't mind is just going for a full wall here, like adding 3 more gateways, making it harder for Banelings to attack me. I think that's generally a cool thing, making it difficult for the opponent to attack you. You have a Hive coming in for Su as well, so you can decide to throw down some Hive units, whether it's going to be Ultras or Brute Lords or a combination, maybe a Viper. You could also do that. I don't care so much. 4 more Overlords popping out. So you have the centrifugal hooks about halfway done. It's very odd if you're going for some like a heavy Ravager Ling Bane or heavy Roach Ling to get your Baneling speed this late, because it basically means that you can't really attack your opponent in any type of decent time frame. So then why are you, building so many units so early? The way that Su played here was that he had a drone count of an all-in, but then actually went for no attack whatsoever, and then went for a drone count of a macro game. Well, it would be much better to just straight up go to a higher drone count. It's not like I was going to attack him after the way my early game went, and the fact that I was rushing Storm, getting out Immortals, usually means that you're not going for a very quick attack. Things like Storm and Immortals, they skill quite well, so you often want to wait until you're maxed out at least before you go for a little bit of an attack. You have Adrenal Glands coming in here for Su. Spire is about to finish up, as it feels like he's about to go into a greater Spire. Second Evo Chamber as well coming in. I'm just adding in more and more Immortals, kind of chilling on 4 bases. One of the cool tricks that I figured out before this tournament is that as a Protoss player, you don't really need more than 8 gas in order to afford everything you really want in life. Su decides to fight basically a pure Arco army here with Lynx, which is a wild call. He throws away about 40 Lynx. Like, you know what? I didn't want Lynx anymore. Let me throw them away. And then decided, you know what? It's scary if he moves out. Let me rebuild 60 Lynx. And now is planning on hitting a Ravager Ling Bane timing 10 minutes into the game, with the power of a Ravager Ling Bane timing that should have hit at the 7-minute, well, the 8-minute mark maybe. So it's just a very odd game. It feels like Su wants to trade out units, but then whenever he loses those units, he rebuilds them as well. It's just it's very confusing if you're the Protoss player in this situation. That's the one thing I can pretty much guarantee you. Zealot's now moving in position to try and deal some damage. Nice A move here. So just move command right into these links with Adrenal Glands finishing up soon. Feels like he's, it's going to be capable of holding this just fine. My Prism starts moving in towards the main base. Couple of Corruptors on the way. At the same time, Protoss, me, starting my second Stargate and a Fleet Beacon as well. So it's a banging game so far, We had some minor interactions, but mainly the interactions have been him throwing some units away, me losing an Oracle, me throwing some Zealots away, him losing some Links, and that's pretty much about it. We have a bunch of Banelings about to try and walk through minerals. But we're freaking Moses over there. Trying to split the Red Sea. Well, the blue minerals. Didn't quite work. Have to just run around. Are gonna get in here. Harstem smart enough though. Already had a sentry in position to force field. Not a high level move. Almost like he's played StarCraft before. Bit of warp in defensively with the Zealots. As we have 86 workers to 75. We have 4 more Corruptors on the way. And the first 2 Brood Lords start at this point. There are a crap ton of Archons. There are 6 Immortals. And there are 5 Templars. This is not just a powerful army. This is an extremely powerful army. Which could have been stronger had he not just lost 10 Stalkers in the middle of the map. Those were the Stalkers from earlier, obviously. Still gonna get a move out. Is there a prison with this attack? No, there's not. Is that necessary, though, to have a prison here? It's a good question. I think the answer is going to be no. The target is going to be the base on the left side. As there's no mining, I don't think Su is going to be too upset about losing this base. Like, oh no, not 300 minerals. Meanwhile, he's stacking into Brood Lords. Harstem moves in forward. Banelings once again trying to attack a base, but the sentry continues to hold, at least for now. A bunch of these probes will end up falling. 64 workers to 82. There's a significantly bigger bank here for Su, given the fact that he's maxed and Harstem isn't. So the banks are pretty close, but I mean, I still need to build a lot of units before I get maxed out. As I take out the base, I have no real attack on the right side. There's going to be a Baneling flank here. Except it's not really a flank, it's just an attack into this base. A lot of Banelings are being taken out before they manage to kind of reach the probes. These bad boys are going to be capable of getting a lot of worker kills. 16 workers falling right now. This Baneling's not going to be capable of... What the hell? It's killed me. It's destroyed me. 20 workers going down. That's really sad. Thought it wasn't going to be capable of doing much more damage, but I guess he has the +3 damage. Hate to see it. First few Brood Lords, or extra Brood Lords now being added in, so that's going to go up to 10 Broods. Now we're going to see the power of the Brood Lord in full force. Brood Lord, of course, the tier 3 unit or the tier 4 unit of Zerg. Capable, hopefully, of dealing with ground armies. Although that isn't entirely true anymore. The Brood Lord has been neutered so much that at this point, whenever you see Brood Lords, a really good move is just to run away for a little bit and then get either Mass Stalker or get a couple of Tempest out. And you're usually actually kind of fine. Like the damage output of Broods is honestly not that scary. And moving out with Brood Lords is actually kind of scary. So I'm hitting, well, almost a full storm there on a bunch of these Broods. Getting a couple of Stalkers. With something like 10 Stalkers, you can actually kind of fight into 10 Brood Lords and get a pretty decent trade. At least cost efficient. It's perhaps not going to be super supply efficient. No, actually, it is. Just good trades usually. So he's kind of going for a high ground. While at the same time trying to deny my left side base. I can't really defend this area because I need to be capable of blinking under these Brood Lords. So I decide to just give up this base. Despite already being down in eco by quite a bit. Lose all the workers that I have, really. It's 46 to 87 workers. I'm not necessarily very far up in upgrades, but I do have a massive army. He also has a massive army, which is less gas dense, I guess. Send a little bit of an Archon attack towards the bottom side, which perhaps not great, because small portions of my army he can actually try and take out. It's going to get a single kill here on an Archon, 1 or 2 Zealot kills as well, but do manage to survive. As my Tempest production has kicked off right now. Su's still looking for a fight, wants to kind of trade as he has a massive bank. One of the cool things you can do then is to trade on the other side of the map, right? So if you trade on the Protoss side of the map, you have a lot of time to remax. You can make a decision on what you want to remax on. And the longer you wait to fight, the harder it's going to be to remax because the Protoss player is going to be in between your bases. So getting reinforcements in the right positions is going to be much harder. As the 3 Archons from earlier once again try to go for a run by. This time we're going to get caught off guard. There's no real anti-air in this force. That means that the Tempest by themselves are going to be good enough to push all of these Brood Lords back. That's actually fairly frustrating here for Su. It's a bit of an oversight. He had scouted the fact that I went for air units, but wanted perhaps to see if I forgot to target fire with my Tempest. Perhaps not a bad game plan usually, but as I was on top of things on this particular day, I did decide to right-click on the Brutes with a Tempest. An advanced move for sure, which probably shocked the round of 8 GSL player. Tempest a little bit further in the back than ideally they should be. Templar a bit further in the back than ideally they should be. Yeah, throw on a couple of fat storms. as Corruptor's now out as well. Aeropen's level 1 is about to finish up. The Brood Lord count is not that high anymore. That means with this massive ground army, I actually feel fairly comfortable. Now, I am way down still when it comes to the income. I'm way down in the bank as well, but taking a pretty decent fight here. Archons are taking a bit of damage. Corruptor's now moving forward as I blink in to deal with a bunch of these broods. While this fight was going on, Su already was producing a bunch of ultras. But the majority of the ultras really start after the fight. So here we have that remax that ideally you have while your opponent still needs to walk across the map. But as Su decided to wait with the fight, we're actually in a situation here where the remax happens as I'm pretty much in his third base. Now, you could say, why don't you go into the natural and try to clear all of his productions? Because I'm afraid of these bases mining a lot of minerals and then maybe production being built elsewhere. Su now has remaxed as well. And there's a couple of things he can do. He can go for run-bys, he can go for counterattacks, or he can try to send his Ultra Ling army into my Archon Immortal, which would be a play. Once again here, Su opting for the strategy of not having any anti-air whatsoever. Sees that the Tempest are shooting his Ultras. Wonder if there's going to be any solution for this. So far, it doesn't quite seem to be the case, as the counterattack does force out a super battery, a warp in as well. And more units going across. 5 Corruptors now start, as the Temp is still pretty much untouched at this point. I'm just kind of going to chase units around. So I'm thinking to myself, or I'm doing some basic maths, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to lose 1 base over here. There's 2 bases on the bottom. It's going to be a 2-for-1 trade. And in my mind, that was going to be a good trade, which I'm not sure if is actually true. I think it's a fine trade. I don't think it's terrible necessarily. Tempest going to be heading back home to deal with these ultras once again. There's no anti-air. Decided to go for a recall as well. So I recall into a really sick position. And I still have a portion of my army on the other side too. So I figured, you know what I can do? I can kind of, I can kind of surround this army. I kind of forgot about an important part of the surround, is that all sides of the surround need to be capable of, kind of holding their own, which definitely wasn't the case of the 7 Stalkers and 2 Immortals against the 12 Ultras and 300 Links. But honestly, this went quite a bit better than I thought it would. At the same time, this Archon and Stalker are getting an infinite amount of drone kills. This Archon currently at 31 kills. Majority of those are going to be drones. A couple of Links in there as well. Su at this point down about 7k in the resources lost. And actually not outmining me by that much anymore, but still outmining me by enough that I feel forced to attack. I don't have any base defense anymore, so a single Ling run by could deal some serious damage. Su here deciding that it's time to kill me and win the game. Except forgetting for a moment here that in order to kill my army, he does need to get us around, or maybe a fungal, or wait for the units that he's building with the last bit of money that he had to finish. But he decided that, half of his army was going to be good enough to kill me. And then it wasn't. My Archon now joins up back to the main army. He's like, oh, wait a second. Let me build some more Links and Ultras. That's been going great so far. Especially a big fan of the Ultras in the face of the 5 Immortals. It's a powerful counter. I'm really surprised to not have seen a single Infestor here. Just a single Spellcaster in general in this entire game. As I have 2 Archons, which can deal with the Links. Now decides to fight outside of Spine range one more time. Still has a base active on the bottom side, where he could potentially send some drones to. Has a base active here, where he could be mining from as well. But instead, decides to send all of his units into the meat grinder. As I clear the final Spine Crawlers at this base. Trying to chase some of these drones away. Links come too late to clear the Zealots. By the way, I still have no ability to really defend at home or to defend my last bit of mining. So if at any point, 2 Links move across the map, I'm pretty sure I lose all my production rather than still being capable of every now and again getting a Zealot in or something like that. Not quite the case, as Corruptors are being sent across, but the rest of the army really just being used to try and fight. I currently have 2 Archons, 4 Immortals against 30 Links, and 4 Corruptors. And here, I would quickly like to point out, just a quick pause here. I'm not a huge fan of pausing, but we'll pause here, okay? Just kind of analyze the situation. So we've just walked through about, what is it, like 20 seconds of me being in relatively open positions. I walked from here into this area. These Archons are extremely low. They have like 130 shields or so. This one has 100 shields, okay? There's about 30 Links out. Now, this is not a great army against what I have. But if you're out in the open and you can surround the Archons and kill them, Lings deal very well with Immortals. There's no Zealots either anymore, so once you kill the Archons, you pretty much straight up win. So that is one option you can go for. Another option you can go for is kind of continue mining from this base, and then getting as many Lings or maybe an Infestor out from this particular base while I'm busy killing all your production here. Su decides to go in with all of his Lings as I'm backed into a corner with my Immortals with my Archons behind my Immortals. So my Archons get the maximum amount of damage. This Archon currently at 58 kills. Maximum amount of damage. They stay alive. And he loses all of his Lings, despite still outmining me at this point. Corruptors now come back as well to deal with the significant air force that is here. Could have perhaps peed on one of my buildings instead. And this is the first time in this game where I'm actually outmining my opponent. I actually think this is the first time in the entire game where this is happening. So he pulls the drones away. Goes for an attack. Archons once again in the back, not being touched. And the Immortals, plus the Zealot warp in, is going to be enough for me to win this game. Now, we had very similar games before this as well, with insane base trades. I think we'd been playing it for like 50 minutes at this point. And this game was the cherry on top of the disgusting PvZ cake that Su had been eating so far in this series. I thought this was a fantastic game. It was one of the games that I think very little people saw. I think there was one stream still covering us at the end. Like I said, I think we ended up playing till like maybe 10 or so, despite the day starting at like 9 a.m. So it was fairly late already. Most people went home. Like most of the crew went home already as well. The stage was empty. And it was just being broadcast online. I thought it was a fantastic game. I didn't want to, withhold this from all of you. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Or maybe you hated it as much as Su did, because I'm sure he wasn't too happy with this. But yeah, it's just... I think sometimes StarCraft is the best when it's high-level players making a lot of mistakes, because the games tend to be very entertaining, and I think that was the case here. So I hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and bye-bye.